Having kids is not a good financial decision, but I hear that it's magical. So for a lot of people, it ends up being the right decision. But there are some serious money considerations that you want to keep in mind so that you can have kids wear that financial hit, but do it in a way where you're still setting up the future that you want for you and for them. Now, when you have kids, there are hard costs, things like medical expenses, getting new equipment, dummies, all of those fun things that you need to spend dollars on. But the biggest cost by far is the time out of the workforce that you have around maternity leave, paternity leave, and then returning generally on a part-time basis and transitioning back into the workforce. That's followed closely by childcare costs, which end up being the biggest cost for most people. And for a lot of people, it's more expensive than private schools in Australia. Significant hit, and often one that's going to impact your costs and budget for years to come. Now, those costs need to be provided for, but the key to setting yourself up in the strongest position possible around actually having kids is trying to invest as much money as you possibly can before you have kids. And then throughout that period where you've got higher expenses, lower earning, and doing what you can, but not investing a single dollar more than that, because you never want to be forced to sell investments at a time that doesn't make sense. Now, to do this and do it well, what you need to do is get into month by month planning, where you figure out how much money you got in the bank account today, how much are you saving every month up until the point that you have kids, then what happens with your savings capacity beyond that. That is going to direct you in terms of how much money you have available for investing, and that in turn will tell you what investments make sense. If that number is a lot, you might look at property investments. If it's not, you might look at share investments. If it's lower again, you might be just looking at saving money in the bank to do that. But either way, you need to know what those numbers are, and that's going to make sure that you can invest, but then that you've got cash aside that you can fund any deficits or shortfalls while your money is a little bit tighter. Now, because that period of time, from the time that you start having kids until you get back onto an even keel, often goes for years, the power of making smart decisions and getting money invested to allow it to compound through that period is absolutely massive. So you want to take the time to get this right. A common question I get asked by would-be investors is whether it's better to invest in ETFs or to use micro investing. So I wanted to unpack the differences between them and how you can choose. Firstly, ETFs are sort of traded like shares where they're on the stock exchange. The advantages of ETFs are that you have control around the tax consequences of your ETFs because of the actual structuring. Gets a little complex to explain, but essentially gives you a little bit more control from a tax perspective. And you also get more options in terms of the things that you can actually invest your money in. There's a ton of ETFs and it seems to be increasing every single month. Micro investing is more like a managed investment scheme, a managed fund where you're in a pool with other investors. You put a bit of money in, they go buy up a bunch of shares. The advantages of micro investing is that you can start really small. Some of the options allow you to start with as little as 1 single cent. A lot of them allow you to start with $5. There's also no set amount that you need to put in. With an ETF, they're going to have a set price attached to them, so you have to invest at least that much and in multiples of that much, whereas with micro investing, you can invest $1, $3, $3.20, whatever you want to do, you choose the amount, makes it a little bit easier for your scheduling. The other big advantage of micro investing is that it's generally much easier for you to automate your micro investing, particularly when you're investing at smaller levels, because most micro investing platforms will allow you to set up any sort of regular investment plan for any amount that you want on whatever frequency makes the most sense for you. That way you can automate your investing and automate the results that you get over time. Now, there are pros and cons of each option, as you can see from what I've just covered, but keep in mind that the actual dollars and cents difference, as in if you invest exactly the same amount of money in ETFs versus micro investing, you will only really notice it once you've got more than $200,000 in your investment portfolio, which for most investors, and particularly for investors getting started, that's going to be a little bit of a ways away. So don't let trying to get it perfect stop you from getting it done.